Hello to all of my peeps. It's so good to see you here today. From My Chair, episode 142. I have a cool thing. It says, go out and do amazing things. Isn't that so cool? I love it. My stepmom got that for me. Go out and do amazing things. I have it here in the classroom. I see it every day, and I wanted to show it to you. And because we say, go be amazing today. So go out and do amazing things. So I'm excited about that. We're making tracks. We're making tracks through the book of Song of Solomon. And today, let's discuss chapter 1, verse number 9. Chapter 1, verse number 9. Let's read it first. It says, I compared thee, O my love, to a company of horses in Pharaoh's chariots. So then in the first couple of episodes, I defined for us love. Okay, love. What he said, love, and then beloved. If you remember, by knowing who those two words represent, then I can easily know who is talking within the verses. So we said love is the term that the bridegroom gives to her. Okay, so it says, I have compared thee, O my love. So we see that immediately we know who's talking. The bridegroom is talking to the bride. And then remember that beloved is the term that she uses for him. So then remembering that's going to help us as we move forward. So he tells her, oh my love. So when he says, oh my love, we know that the shepherd, which is Solomon, is speaking to the Shulamite woman and is about to describe her. All right, so the shepherd, or Solomon, is talking to the Shulamite, and he's about to describe her. It's a very beautiful description, but it's not how she sees herself, it's how he sees her. So if we can understand just a fraction of how our great shepherd, our great beloved Lord truly sees us, it would transform our lives. So let's jump in. Let's notice something so very interesting. When I read this, I've compared thee to a company of horses. I'll just be honest with you. When I first read this comparison, okay, so we're reading this comparison, I've compared thee to a company of horses. I laughed. I shook my head, and I was like, seriously? There was a way that it hit me. It just hit me in a way. Horses? Really? Why would a bridegroom compare his bride to horses? If you have a teenage boy, I do. I have a big, strong, strapping teenage boy. You've probably used the phrase before, that boy eats like a horse. Okay, that's what I think of when I read this. That boy eats like a horse. I can recall one time riding a horse in my whole entire life. Maybe more, but I've just forgotten. Maybe when I was smaller or something, but I was a teenager at the Bill Rice Ranch. And I remember riding a horse there and riding a trail and then going to a campfire. But I remember being scared. Super scared. I remember being understanding that I was way up off the ground and I was in total subjection to an animal. I had no control. I didn't know what to do. I'd never done that before, but I was in total subjection to an animal. Yes, I know he was trained, of course, but there was still that element of wherever he decides to go, I don't have a choice, so I better hang on. And yes, okay, wait, me and my dad, we watch lots of westerns, including the ones where, the pretty and the beautiful woman, the damsel is riding the horse side saddle, don't forget side saddle, in her big boofy dress on a horse, and then all of a sudden a rattlesnake comes out in front of it, the horse jumps up, and guess what? The girl, boom, she goes off and hits her head, and through the whole rest of the episode, she's blind. I've seen all of those. So as I'm riding this horse, I'm thinking about all of that, and it scares me. That whole riding a horse, it scares me. I don't think of it. When I read this, I'm like, what? Why in the world would you compare me to a horse? That one time at camp, let me just tell you, that was enough for me. And so yes, casually reading that my heavenly bridegroom compares me to a horse, it didn't thrill me. Not at all. It didn't thrill me at all. I have some dear peeps who love Horses, love them. They ride them, they own them. One of my teenage peeps, they have a job. She has a job at a stable. She loves horses and would be there all day long, but she gets paid to do it and loves horses and loves every minute of it. But again, comparing me to a horse. Okay, let's look at this a minute. There must be something in this for me, the one who is not a big fan of horses. Let me tell you, the more I read and studied about this, the more I understood what a wonderful comparison this truly is. But not in a way that you would suspect. Hang with me. Hang with me. Let me lay some groundwork. Horses back in Bible days, they were reserved for nobility and for military. Only those. The common people didn't have them. Either nobility or military had horses. I noticed as I studied, take your Bible and go to 1 Kings chapter 10. A couple of, so interesting as we studied this. 1 Kings chapter number 10, look at verse number 28. I love this. Solomon, we need to understand that Solomon loved horses. He loved them. In fact, 1 Kings chapter 10, look at verse number 28. And Solomon had horses brought out of Egypt and linen yarn. The king's merchants received the linen yarn at a price. And a chariot came up and went out of Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and an horse for 150. And so for all the kings of the Hittites, the kings of Syria, did they bring them out by their means. He was the first to bring the horse and chariot out of Egypt, according to that. But the more I studied, he didn't just love horses. Solomon was what we would call a horse enthusiast. You say, what? Okay, take him out. 1 Kings chapter 4. 1 Kings chapter 4. You got to look at this. Look at verse number 26. 1 Kings 4, verse number 26. And Solomon, watch, had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. I think Solomon would more than just like them or more than just love them. He was a horse enthusiast. From what I read, he bought them. He sold them. He gave them as gifts to other countries, and then other countries gave them back to Solomon. 2 Chronicles 9, chapter 9, verse 28. People brought horses to him for gifts. He had such an army of them that no enemy would come near his kingdom. Solomon means peaceful or peace. He had peace in his kingdom. God prophesied that. And he had so many of these horses and things, nobody wanted to touch him. He had that peace during the reign of Solomon. And those horses, yeah, they were a big reason. People didn't want to mess with him. The penman into this parabolic poem, this song, adored horses. So it is very fitting that he would use such a comparison. All of that history and background is super cool to me. I enjoyed studying it. But when I look at a horse, don't be mad at me. I know my peeps. I know some of you. You're like, what? Just hang on. When I look at a horse, I do not see a beautiful creature. I'm sorry. I don't. They scare me. I don't see a beautiful creature. A peacock, that is a beautiful creature to me. A hummingbird, those are very beautiful to me, but not a horse. I don't think beautiful when I see a horse. I know some of you do. I'm so sorry, but that's just me. Listen to what the Holy Spirit has encouraged my heart with over the last just recently couple of weeks. Sometimes I don't need to be reminded that I am beautiful to my bridegroom. Sometimes I don't need to be reminded that I'm beautiful. Watch. Sometimes I need to be reminded that I'm strong. Sometimes I need to be reminded that I am courageous. I need to be reminded sometimes that I am resilient. Well, then most certainly you have described that wonderful animal called a horse. Sometimes I don't need to hear about my loveliness or how fair I am. Sometimes I need to hear that my God believes in me. I need to hear that He thinks that I can do all things. I can move forward. I can keep fighting. I can carry whatever He hands me today with grace and dignity and stateliness. Well, then most certainly you have described a company of horses. Yeah. I was reading this, I'm like, wait, horses are not beautiful to me. They're just not. But when you look at it and say, wow, horses are stately. They have grace with them. They have so much dignity. They move forward. They keep fighting. They can carry whatever their master gives them to put on their back. They can carry it. They are strong. They are courageous. They are resilient. And the Hebrew word for horse here is mare. That full-grown adult female horse. Sometimes I don't need to hear that I'm beautiful or be reminded of that. Sometimes I need to be reminded you are strong enough to fight today. You are strong enough to overcome this today. You are courageous enough to stand up for Christ. You are resilient enough to go through the fire and go through the battle. You are strong enough. You are resilient. You can move forward. You can keep fighting. And you can carry it. You can handle it. As long as I've got God, I can. Can I throw this in for free as I was reading and studying this? The comparison gets amped up because they were Egyptian horses. They were Egyptian horses. You got to catch it. I've compared thee, O my love, to a company of horses in Pharaoh's chariots. Wait, that means they were Egyptian horses. They were the best horses in the world. Then again, 2 Chronicles, you can look at 2 Chronicles chapter 1, verse 17. And if any horses in Egypt were top of all the others, dun, 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 yes, they would be the king's horses. They would be Pharaoh's horses in his chariots. The best of the best of the best Pharaoh had. This comparison that Solomon makes to the Shulamite, this comparison that our bridegroom makes to us, his bride, it is beautiful. But it reminds me, some days I don't need to know that I'm beautiful, I'm lovely. Some days I need to be compared to a company of horses in Pharaoh's chariots. I need to know that I am strong. I am courageous. I am resilient. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. I can move forward. I can keep fighting. I can carry whatever He hands me today with grace, dignity, and stateliness. Look, my dear peeps, look. Whatever God hands you today, with Him, you are strong enough. With Him. Now, yes, we put stuff on ourselves never meant for us to carry. And a lot of times that's what weighs us down. Is the stuff that we put on ourselves. But the stuff that God hands me, the stuff that God hands you, you can carry. You're strong enough. You do have enough courage to keep moving forward with Christ, with Him. You can keep fighting the battles that He wants you to fight. So, I decided that I am good with being compared to horses. Wait, Egyptian horses. Wait, the ones in the king's chariots. Because those are the best ones. Those are the strongest ones. Those are the most courageous ones. Those are the most resilient of them all. And you are too. You are too. So you know what? I'm good. I don't shake my head anymore. Go ahead, compare me to a company of horses and Pharaoh's chariots. I'm strong. With Christ, I need to be strong. I need to be resilient, stately, with grace, courageous. I can do that. I can carry what he has for me to carry with him. It's okay to be compared to a company of horses in Pharaoh's chariots. Sometimes we need that. Don't forget, Lydia at 11 in her journey to remain cancer-free. Now go be amazing today.